Hello, Sisterhood. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying the early spring weather. It's good times here. The sun is coming out a lot more now. I love the change of schedule. I love the hour ahead that we have now, the time loss, but the lots more daylight that we have now. I'm enjoying the sunny weather. I hope you are as well where you're located. In this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more about rest and relaxation, especially as we are over a year into this pandemic now, and so many of us are exhausted by all the online activities, the online Zoom meetings, and the different requirements that have had to be done in a new way over the past year, especially with the cautions and the health concerns that we still have during this pandemic. So it's just a lot. So in this episode, I share with you a trip to a place of relaxation. I share with you information about Reiki, a Reiki healing practice. And so we're going to be speaking with Mia and Phil of Birch Leaf Healing, and they are Reiki practitioners located in Arizona and in Sedona, actually. Beautiful sounding place. I've never been, but would love to one day. And I actually had a Reiki session with them recently, and it was very nice. I've had 3 Reiki sessions now ever in my life, and each one of them is a little different. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about those different experiences. If you've had a Reiki experience, I'd love to hear what it was like for you. Basically, they seem to be kind of mysterious at the beginning. There's not a whole lot of description about what's expected, what to expect, what to experience, and it's kind of more like it's just going to be your own experience. And so the first time I had a Reiki experience was here in San Diego, and I was on the table, and the Reiki practitioner, kind of put their hands over different parts of my body, and you could feel this energy and warmth and relaxation. I remember after that first Reiki session that I felt this inner calm for about 2 months after the Reiki session. It was remarkable. The second time I had a Reiki session was just about a year ago, and I talk about it in one of our past episodes. And that was wonderful as well. That was remote Reiki for the first time, and it's just as powerful. It was just as powerful as in-person Reiki. So this one was done just actually a weekend before the pandemic shutdown, and I was driving out for business with my consulting client, and it was a long trip, and it was perfect because I set up this time for a Reiki appointment over the phone, remote Reiki session when I got there, so that I could rest and relax. And so I had this Reiki session that was remote, and it was done after I got off the phone. She said to just relax and basically take a nap. And it was the most relaxing and restful nap I've had in a very long time. And after the nap, we talked, and she shared with me what she noticed in what she worked with the different chakras of the body. And she noticed certain tensions in different parts of the body that she shared with me. And that was a wonderful experience as well. And then this most recent Reiki session with Mia of Birch Leaf Healing was wonderful as well. And this one was done remotely. And they do in-person and remote sessions, but because of the pandemic, they're doing more remote sessions at the moment. And it was very relaxing. I actually felt like a swirling of energy through my body at the beginning, and then I felt like deep rest, and then I started to feel like different parts of my body like either releasing or pulling, different like stretching feelings throughout my body, in addition to like this tingling at the top of my head. It was just really interesting, and I would definitely say that it wasn't all in my head, because these are not feelings that I generally experience every day. These are not actually like sensations that I feel, different parts of my body. These are not feelings that are familiar for me. So I would definitely say that Reiki definitely works. After the session with Mia, I got up and I felt such deep relaxation. And I just highly recommend it. And the thing is with the Reiki sessions with Birch Leaf Healing is that they are providing us with a 50% discount to listeners of Sisterhood of Limitless Living. So I will share that in the show notes. And I highly recommend it because the price is wonderful. The rates are very reasonable and the service is very amazing and relaxing. I highly recommend it if you have never experienced Reiki before. That Birch Leaf Healing Reiki is an excellent place to begin your journey. So check out the show notes, and when you sign up for your appointment, use the code SOLL, Sisterhood of Limitless Living, for the 50% off discount. It's a wonderful opportunity that I would not miss. So do check them out, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Phil and Mia as they share their story of how they began the Reiki business and some of the cultural contexts of moving to the Sedona area. So it's a beautiful story, and I hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed meeting them and speaking to them, and I really want to support their business because what they're doing is wonderful. It's very helpful, especially in helping to serve the autoimmune community and helping us to get some relaxation during this time. So I highly recommend it. And check out this episode. Hello, thank you so much for joining us with this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. Today we're going to be talking about the power of Reiki and how this is one option that we have in the autoimmune space as we go to the traditional clinical community, and there are just times when we don't get the answers or we're still not able to get the help we need. We hear this so frequently in our autoimmune community. We hear about pain and how physicians and specialists are not able to resolve the pain. We hear about depression, anxiety, and so many conditions. And I've just recently shared this like strange like regrowth of my hair kind of condition that's been happening, and whether it's autoimmune or not, who knows. But there are some answers that we can do outside of the clinical side. There are some traditional, more, very like historic and more traditional and alternative in the United States, alternative aspects of healing and wellness that we can also look to. So today we are speaking to Mia and Phil of Birch Leaf, and they're going to be sharing about the power of Reiki. And so welcome, both of you. Welcome, Mia and Phil. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So please tell us a little bit about Birch Leaf Healing and how long you've been in business in Reiki. Tell us about how you came into the field of Reiki, and then tell us about your location at the moment.
So about a year and a half ago, I would say, I decided I had a trauma, and to sort of help myself heal through this trauma, I decided to go and be trained in Reiki. I had first learned about Reiki when I was seeing a massage therapist years and years before that. And she happened to be a Reiki practitioner as well. And so I was really excited to maybe be alleviating myself of, the things that go along with trauma. Mm-hmm. And I found a really great mentor and Reiki master and received the energy. And then I convinced Phil to also do that. And then almost a year ago, we decided to take our practice into more of a business. And unfortunately, COVID was coming along at that same time. And so we're about as old as COVID.
Yeah,
we have a nonprofit that's as old as COVID. And, the good thing is we don't know any different. People say it's so hard, it's so difficult during these times, but we don't know any better. And so this is just fact for us and reality for us. And so I think we're ready for, easier times.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything to that?
Definitely ready for easier times. I think what COVID has taught us is that Reiki can be impactful and positive distantly, right? Where normally we would see clients face to face. And with Reiki, it's powerful enough that you can have hands-on or you can work in the aura field. Now we're starting to realize and understand that we can do it distantly. We can do over the phone sessions. We can do Zoom meetings if the client chooses so. But when I heard about Reiki, certainly Mia had more knowledge of it than I did. But when I started then taking classes and learning more about it, to me, I just opened up to understanding the positive aspect of Reiki when working with individuals who are going through, be it a physical ailment or, some type of trauma in their life, or again, working with individuals that do have autoimmune, fibromyalgia, chronic pain. And a lot of times we realize that there's more that people are going through that we're just seeing on the surface. And with Reiki, we can then not just tackle the symptoms, but find out what the root cause is.
I love that.
Yeah, we're lucky because we can do Reiki distantly, and so even though we started out in San Carlos in California, we decided to come back to Arizona in July or like around that time, and so now we're practicing in Sedona. Really great energy, by the way.
Yeah, so tell us about Sedona. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go. Tell us how it feels to be a Reiki practitioner in Sedona. Tell us what the energy experience is like for you there. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's a great question. And, the landscape here and the scenery is just amazing. I don't want to sound biased, but it has to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. The energy is just something that is just magical. There are vortexes or vortices here where the energy is just this massive sort of rush. Some people feel it, some people don't. But it's being able to work in that sort of field, if you will. And, perhaps it's stronger where we are in doing that distant Reiki. I certainly don't want to get into any sort of arguments with individuals that are doing Reiki in other places of the world. But it does have a special sort of feeling here. Absolutely.
Yeah, the energy is is sort of intense at times, but it seems like to me, it seems like it sort of amplifies it, makes it sort of hone in, makes it sort of release more quickly, if that makes sense.
So I wonder, have you seen a difference in Sedona in some cases with some of your clients who are remote versus, when you were in California? What is the Reiki experience like now for yourself and your patients or your clients?
Yeah, I would say that, when we were in San Carlos, that's a lovely area as well. And there's lots of positive energy. And I feel like clients were really sort of feeling the effects, but I feel like since we've come to Sedona, it's maybe, I don't want to say increased, but it just sort of has refined our the energy flow. And we get a lot of positive feedback, oh, I can feel that. Oh, whoa, that tingles, and I think it's more immediate than it was when we were in California.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wow. So tell us a little bit more about Reiki, and tell us a little bit about, some of the cultural aspects and the multicultural aspects of Reiki, maybe the history, and then how it relates to your own, history. Tell us about that.
So the experience, the idea of Reiki is traditionally thought of as a Japanese sort of technique, if you will, and it. So there's this monk, and he decided to go up the mountain and meditate for 21 days. Took no food, barely any water. And on the 21st day, had this really great experience where he found the Reiki energy, and it just sort of downloaded, if you will. And this is, like I'm simplifying it, but he ran down the mountain and, healed himself and shared it with people. And, eventually it came to America through Miss Takata in Hawaii. And we're lucky, Phil and I are lucky to have come into contact with it. And I think I was sharing with you earlier when we were just chatting, that my family is from this area. They have been in this area for hundreds, thousands of years. And they, I was born in what's known as California, but to us, it is always just our land. And so even though I was born there, we moved back to Arizona, and I say, we moved back to Arizona, but we were always here. And I think that this has been like a full journey for me, because it sort of has brought me back to my ancestors. We were lucky enough to come into contact with something called Reiki Drumming. And we use the Reiki drum. It's kind of like a traditional, Native American type drum. And we use that to sort of amplify the energy as well. And I feel like it's really connecting me back to my roots. And so it's been a really big healing experience in so many ways. And, I think traditionally, it was Japanese, but I feel like it really applies to any belief system that people have, because it really is just sort of a connection with Creator or the universe, or however you refer to that. And it's just a very spiritual thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people wonder, is Reiki a religion? Well, it's not a religion. Certainly all cultures can identify with that sort of universal energy, that energy from source. And so be it if you believe in Jesus Christ, if you believe in Buddha, if you believe in Muhammad, we're all here on the same planet, and we are all going through these different life and struggles and stresses. And so it doesn't matter what spirituality, being, or image that you believe in. Everybody benefits from Reiki.
Yeah, I agree. That the energy feeling is very universal, right? It's just part of all of who we are. And even in the Christian tradition, when people pray for you and they put their hands on you, you feel the warmth. It's the same feeling. It's a very similar feeling when you're doing a Reiki session with somebody. It's that warmth, that feeling. It's like in a specific part of the body even. It's just so interesting. And yeah, I agree with you how universal this energy experience can be, and healing can be. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how Reiki has helped people that who are living with chronic conditions such as autoimmune conditions, or fibromyalgia and other chronic conditions.
Yeah, both of my parents have fibromyalgia, and so we were doing Reiki on them to sort of help them with their symptoms or flare-ups, and they liked it so much, they found it so useful that they decided to get the energy, and so we taught them Reiki so that they can do it on themselves. So when they're like, my mom had this stomach condition recently where she was having flare up after flare up and having to go off to the emergency. But she was doing self Reiki so that she could sort of manage it before it accumulated. And so that was really helping her. My father also has cancer, and he isn't able to sort of concentrate that energy enough because of, the drugs that are involved with that. And so we do Reiki for him as well. And it sort of helps him manage the pain, manage the pinpoint pains that he gets from his sessions. And what did you want to add? Go ahead.
So also working with individuals, say, for example, suffering from fibromyalgia, the Reiki energy certainly helps when individuals are open to it, and it sort of can be utilized as another type of healing process, another modality, if you will, along with like good diet, exercise, just trying to maintain stress levels as well. Some individuals may feel like after a session, I didn't feel anything afterwards or during, but it may take a little bit longer, right? It may be that evening that they start to feel an easier sensation over their body, and it allows them to relax.
Yeah. And sometimes when you have stressors coming in, you don't necessarily recognize that. And, it can sort of create space for you to either recognize that or to release it before it becomes a problem. And, just coming into the Reiki energy sort of helps with the physical afflictions that people might have, but it can also, because it's intuitive and it goes where it needs to go, rather than working on the physical problem, it might be opening space for people to be able to advocate for themselves, or to be able to say, this is how I feel. Like, I don't need you to tell me how I feel. This is how I feel, like creating that voice for them. And so it helps in those ways as well.
Yeah, that's so important in the autoimmune space, being able to advocate for yourself. Even myself, being in the healthcare field and public health, having had autoimmune conditions now for 4 years, diagnosed, it's still difficult sometimes to speak in that space, right? It's just they're looking at the limited time they have with you, and they want to just do this quick transaction, the clinician and you, and you don't get to share the whole picture with them anyway. But also, it's just you don't get a chance to really say what you came in to say. Sometimes, it's frustrating.
I think we are. The positive thing about what we do is that since we aren't necessarily, working Western medicine, is that we have the flexibility of just being able to listen to what somebody has to say. When we do meet clients prior to a session, we'll spend, 15, maybe 30 minutes on a free consultation just to find out, well, what's going on? What are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? So that when we provide that session to someone, we know sort of how the Reiki energy is going to work. Now, of course, like Mia was saying, it is intuitive. And so it's going to go where it needs to go. Somebody may say, well, my stomach has been bothering me for quite some time. And so we may think, okay, let's look at the stomach. Let's work on the stomach. Let's send energy to the stomach. Reiki will start there perhaps, but there may be other issues that are going on with a particular client's body, and that energy can then free up, something else that's going on that's causing the stomach to feel the way that it's feeling.
Yeah, and it doesn't just work on like the physical body, it works on the emotional bodies, the astral bodies, and so it's sort of, and it works with chakras too. And so it sort of gets in there and aligns everything as best that it can so that it's in that individual's highest interest, like it sort of prioritizes, if you will.
Yeah, I love how it's unique for each person. The experience is unique for each person. And based on my own experience, I've had 2 sessions and they're both very different. They've been distinctly different. One was in person, one was remote. And the feeling and the results, the experience was just not the same each time.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point too, because you might be coming in like one week and, you have some sort of inflammation, and then the next week you're coming in, the inflammation is gone or it's subsided or it's under control, but, it's been really stressful. And so, it's a different experience, like you're saying, every single time for us as the practitioners as well, because, we're dealing with unique situations and individuals every single time. And even like when I do self-Reiki, it's different every single time. Like sometimes it tingles, sometimes it doesn't tingle, sometimes they like drift off and fall asleep. So it's definitely different every single time.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the first time we've talked about self-Reiki on the podcast. We've heard about in-person Reiki, remote Reiki. Tell us a little bit more about self-Reiki.
Yeah, and so when you are attuned to the level 1 energy, you're able to do self-Reiki. And there are different hand positions that you use when you do self-Reiki, but they mainly reside around the chakras. And so it sort of helps clear out your chakras and relax you, just like a normal Reiki session would, like if you were going to a practitioner. And it's really nice because you can do it anytime, anywhere, like you're driving down the street and somebody is like doing something that is really frustrating, you can do it right there. Like you just put one hand on the steering wheel and one hand on yourself and, sort of refocus yourself and align yourself and let it go. It helps sort of clear out that energy.
Oh, that's great. I'd love to learn more about that experience, self-Reiki as well. So tell us, how can we get in touch with you to hear more about Reiki, to get in contact with you? Tell us about your social media accounts.
Yeah, so we are, we're on Facebook and Twitter and on Instagram. We also have a website. It's reikisancarlos.com. And our Instagram is at Birchleaf Healing.
And our Twitter account is at Birch Healing.
Birch Healing.
Oh, and Facebook would be Birchleaf Healing.
Okay. So all the others, Birchleaf Healing. Great. And so do you have any promotions or any packages, anything that you're currently working with at the moment?
Yeah, and so anyone who has listened to the podcast can use the discount code SOLL to get 50% off of Reiki session. And we would love to promote that. We also have Reiki 1. So that's where you learn the self-Reiki. We have a Reiki 1 class coming up, and anyone who's listened to the podcast can use that same code to to check out the class, and it's just $100 instead of the normal rate.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing this promotion with the podcast.
Mhm.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I guess in closing, would you have any comments or tips that you would give to somebody who's going through some chronic pain, difficult times with autoimmune conditions, and how can Reiki help them? Any advice or tips that you can provide them with?
Yeah, I would say that the most important thing that you could do for yourself actually doesn't necessarily involve Reiki, but that's to, really live your truth. Like if you know that it's going on for you, to accept that and to not let anyone sort of sway you, to know your truth. And I think that, coming into Reiki can really help with that as well. And so, if you're curious about it, reach out to a Reiki practitioner, and, just sort of see what it's all about, sort of feel it out and see if it's for you, because, some things aren't for everyone. We think that Reiki is universal and it's for everyone, but, not everything is everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, definitely. And don't give up. There are support groups, there are organizations. Just continue to realize that you are not alone. You may feel alone. We understand that individuals that suffer from autoimmune fibromyalgia are disenfranchised. They don't feel like anybody is listening to them or supporting them. And so, like Mia was saying, if Reiki doesn't work, just don't give up. Keep fighting, and eventually you will better understand what is going on with yourself. And there are people that are listening.
Thank you. Definitely. That's what the Sisterhood of Limitless Living kind of theme is about. Limitless in terms of we're part of this journey and we're always learning. We're constantly moving forward in this, whatever, if it's the struggle or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's difficult times, but continuing to move forward and finding things that work best for us and having that self-advocacy to do so. So thank you so much for joining us today. I've learned a lot more today about Reiki, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed this talk as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Phil and Mia.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.